What's good, everybody? Man, it's your boy Jay in the building. We is back again with another video. Now, before we get this video started, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys share this video. We have some real live football action this weekend, man. We have the SWAC and MEAC challenge. We have Norfolk State versus Florida A&M, and we're gonna go ahead and dig right into this game. Now, first off, let's talk about Norfolk State for a little bit. They're coming off of a 3-8 season. Now, their record don't reflect how competitive they were last year. At least for the majority of the season, very competitive. Had a lot, I think about at least 6 or 7 games where they only lost by single digits. You know, so now they do have some blowout losses from Temple and South Carolina State. But South Carolina State did have a little extra motivation. It was Buddy's last game, so listen, I can excuse that a little bit. Now, their one bad loss, I would say, was against North Carolina A&T. They gave them their first and only win on their home field. Unacceptable. That's absolutely wild. They do need to have a better rush or a better passing attack and be able to defend the run better. Last year, I think offensively they averaged a little over 170 yards rushing per game, but they averaged less than 170 yards passing per game. So they really need to step that up in the passing game if they're going to win any more games. Then on the defensive side of things, they gave up over 200 yards rushing per game. Now, granted, they only gave up 170 yards passing, but they don't matter when you can't stop the run because everything else works, you know. And so, as a matter of fact, they gave up over 300 yards rushing the first game of the season against Virginia State. Hell, they almost gave up 300 yards against North Carolina A&T. I think they lost that game. I think North Carolina A&T, they only completed like 5 or 6 passes that entire game. Unacceptable, bro. But I will say this though, they are bringing back some weapons from last year, you know, but they are heading into this game without their starting quarterback in Otto Coons, and apparently he's suspended for the first 4 games of the year, which is wild and crazy. Me personally, I still don't know why he's suspended. But Jalen Daniels is gonna get the start for at least for this week. We'll see how he looks this Saturday. They still have their 2 rushers from last year in King and Evans. They still have their 2 of their top 3 receivers in Morris and Aaron Moore, and they do have a new weapon in Jacquizz Jones, the two-time first-team All-Conference SWAC receiver out of Lane College. They have the majority of their offensive line back, so hopefully, with a year, with a year together, hopefully this offense will be clicking more, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see a better air attack from this team, hopefully. But on the defensive side of things, their secondary is elite. I will say that. Teron Mallory, R.J. Coles, Devon Allen, all 3 of those guys are very elite, and they're going to need to be elite against this high-flying team in FAMU. But they have a lot of new names, but we'll get to them in a second. A.J. Richard at the linebacker spot, that's probably one of their best defensive players on the team, along with Dalen Long. Hopefully that front 7 is buffered up this year so that they'll be able to stop the rushing attack. Now, FAMU hasn't really been much of a running team the past 2 or 3 years, in my recollection. But this game could prove to be different because Norfolk State wasn't much of a run-stopping team, but hopefully they're better at it. But let's dig into FAMU in their roster. James Cozy, first-time head coach this year. Have Daniel Richardson as a starter at quarterback. They still have Dalvin Dean at running back. They still have Jamari Gassett at receiver. I can't wait to see what Robert Lockhart looks like in this offense this year. But a lot of new weapons for FAMU. Jalen Rogers from Tulane, Jalen Ward from Middle Tennessee State, Asean Cobb from FAU, Goldie Lawrence from Florida State, Quan Lee from UCF, and Marquise Bell from Old Dominion. A lot of new receivers that I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a lot in rotation, at least in this first game. They still have their top two tight ends in Gross and Prucci. The majority of their offensive line is back. So this offense is going to look really interesting. There's going to be a lot of moving parts at the receiver spot. And then on the defensive side of things, I think it's going to look very different as well, outside of still having Kendall Bowler, Deco Wilson, and James Ash at the D-line spot, Alan Smith at the D-line spot, Eric Horn at the linebacker spot. I definitely want to see if Chase Lloyd is going to get time this year. Amari Lee is going to get time this year. Then, along with the new pieces that they got in the offseason, Corey Collar from Nebraska, Brian Norris from South Florida, then Damari Tate from Florida State. A lot of new parts on that defense that we're going to get a chance to see this weekend. Now, if y'all noticed the amount of names that I named off that were part of the transfer portal for Florida A&M, you notice the difference between their recruiting class and Norfolk State's recruiting class for this year. A lot of high school, a lot of true freshmen. And nowadays, college teams are really building their roster off of transfers, because that's what's popular nowadays. You don't see too many teams building their freshmen up anymore, because there's not a lot of guys staying at the same school for 3 and 4 years anymore. It's not happening, especially with this whole NIL thing going on with social media as big as it is, because nowadays it's all about how many offers you get. And like nowadays people are entering the transfer portal, getting 5 or 6 offers, and that's the school they're going with next. Like, there's a lot of kids now that's going to 3 different schools in a span of 4 years. Hell, guys are even having 6 and 7 years worth of eligibility. That was really unheard of for me when I was in school. I didn't even heard of a guy having 6 or 7 years playing college football. That's unheard of, which is kind of wild and crazy. I can't wait to see what FAMU's offense looks like. I know Daniel Richardson, I think he threw for over 2,200 yards last year when he was at FAU. And he's coming into a really, really great situation. A championship-made team, one of the top teams, not only in the SWAC, but in HBCU football, period. And on paper, it looks like a blowout. On paper, it might be a blowout. But, you know, one of the great things about football is all games are played on the field. So we'll get a chance to see both of these teams go at it. Now, I do have Florida A&M winning this game by a lot. Now, if Norfolk State is able to stop the run and force FAMU to pass the ball, that could kind of play in Norfolk State's hands. Because, like I said before, Norfolk State do have an elite secondary. But if the receiving core for FAMU is as good as they are advertised, this probably has all the makings of a blowout. Now, if Norfolk State can't stop the run, then everything else is going to work, and it really don't matter. But I can see this game going 2 ways. I can see this really being a blowout because FAMU is just that overmatched, or Norfolk State pulling it out at the end, and there's a lack of chemistry on FAMU's side, and the roster for Norfolk State is better than it was last year. Because remember, Norfolk State is coming off of 2 straight losing seasons. now compared to the 2021 season, they really haven't recovered since then. But I do hope for a good game, honestly. We'll see what both of these teams look like. I can't wait to see what Jalen Daniels look like against this FAMU defense. Just imagine you coming from a JUCO, you being a sophomore, then instead of the quarterback that you had in front of you, now you get to start against one of the best teams in the SWAC. It's pretty interesting, but I can't wait to see what happens this weekend. It's gonna be wonderful to see.